hidden. And the quick launch as well was modified. The other, and I'll save that, the other changes I made were related to master page. Switch over here. In the custom.master, there is a lot of code. If you search for UI version equals 3, there is a lot of code there that gets displayed. Now in my case, none of my company or organization units are using SharePoint 2007, so there's really no point of having that code in there. I like to keep a lot of my code, my master page is clean, so I'm just going to go ahead and replace that. Make sure my references here are correct. So for announcements, at the prime example, that's the main goal of any optimization of branding that you do from a performance point of view. What are some of the things you can do? Of course, the session isn't purely about the advanced topics as well, but you can configure output caching, blob caching as well. Output caching is actually through the interface. You can actually go through your site collection, site settings, and configure it there. You can actually set up output caching based on your users. So if your majority of users are, and 90% of the users that come to your site really just read the content, you can cache elements of your SharePoint site a lot more for them. One of the biggest things I found in terms of performance enhancements is blob caching. So blob caching allows you, from IIS point of view, to configure types of files, images, JavaScript, CSS, to say that that's actually cached on the server. So it actually stores that information from SharePoint or anywhere else from your browser into the file system. So huge improvements. I've easily seen 20 to 30% improvements on page load time. There's about half a dozen companies that I worked with in the last 2 years where their page load size, or their page loading size was about 12 seconds, and I brought it down to about 2 seconds using probably 3 or 4 of these techniques here. So definitely read up on them. Yes?
When you say cache in the file system, do you mean client side or do you mean
no,
IIS?
server side.
Server side in IIS.
Yes. Yeah. You wouldn't want to do it client side. You could do that through CSS or HTML if you want. But another thing also is, of course, there's enhancements and minification of your JavaScript files or your CSS files, basically taking away that white space so it's not easy to read, but it's a couple of characters less, and that improves a lot of times. jQuery, if you work with jQuery, and I think that might be a topic in the future, jQuery provides you 2 different versions of their JavaScript. One is with white space and one is without white space, and there's drastic improvements on this file size. That improves from a client point of view because the browsers only have to cache a certain amount of data, 140 KB down to 20 KB. All right, and some of the tools that I like to use are YSlow tool that was kind of takes the foundation from what Yahoo UI has implemented. They actually grade with YSlow and Firefox. They actually grade your site, so you can actually start YSlow, refresh your browser, and actually grade your site and where you can improve it. So everything from if you load up SharePoint 2010 out of the box, you'll get a lot of Fs, a lot of Cs. Some A's, definitely some A's. One of the examples is the JavaScript files are too huge. There's too much that's being loaded. Another element could be the storage of files. If they're being stored in multiple different locations, one of the recommendations, of course, is put into one single server, or maybe a content delivery network outside of your environment. Fiddler is great, whether it's authentication issues for double hopping, but also in terms of what files are being loaded. Sometimes, you know, your CSS references, your JavaScript references, image references, there are authentication issues related to that, and Fiddler is great to bring that up as well. If you're loading up your site and you have load balancers, then Wireshark is also a great tool to see where your files are being captured from, especially if you're deploying your solutions to multiple servers. I'm going to skip the upgrade portion of it, but if you wanted to see in the slides, it's there as well. So another quick tip that a lot of people don't know is that you can actually, in your HTML, in your CSS, you can actually say no index, and when the search crawler runs through your content, wherever it says no index, that information won't be part of your search results. Cases of where you can use that, your footer, where it's duplicated on each single page, or your top navigation. Probably not a good idea, but the footer is definitely one of the places that you want to be able to, if it's duplicate links all across, then it's one area that you can go ahead and remove that. Security controlled content. Some areas, and we're going to do this as well. For example, my favorite case is the ribbon. The ribbon is something that, especially on a public-facing site, not everybody needs to see. Not everybody needs to view. So you really need to load up ribbon.js, which I don't know how many 50, 60 KB it is, or any other JavaScript and CSS files that are related to the ribbon. Do you need to load that up for every user in your organization? Right. So you can actually put the server tag around there, and then provide the permissions. So manage web is one of the higher level permissions. All the permission values are documented at MSDN SP-based permissions. So you can actually manage it based on your content owners, your content editors. Recycle bin, for example. Do you want everybody to see that? You probably do, but if you're still working through security permissions or anything of that sort, that's one way to kind of say, okay, once you've kind of moved up in the ladder, you have more access to, you know, if you can't really delete anything on the site, it doesn't really make sense to show the recycle bin. Handling legacy browsers. If within your organization you have a confined list of browsers, so IE7+, Firefox, 3.+, Safari 4. And higher, if there's browsers that are below that, what do you prompt the users? Typically, they get prompted with a ugly kind of JavaScript message saying your browser's unsupported. There's really no call to action to do anything above and beyond that. That's the message that they get. They can still browse the site, but it just says you're unsupported. You know, go ahead and upgrade your browser. You can actually go ahead and download. Google provides this code. Download an upgrade warning code, JavaScript with some HTML, so that if somebody loads up the browser in IE6, your site, then actually give them options. And these, of course, is HTML and CSS. So if you only want to support these guys or whoever, you can make changes to that and link to versions either in the public domain or internally within your organization. So, huge improvement to users and how they use the site. Okay. Now, one of the other components that once you start actually doing a lot more custom design work in SharePoint is you start having a lot of your custom divs in there as well, your custom HTML components. And with SharePoint 2010, you get that dialog box. The dialog box will also show any div tag that you have in your master page that doesn't have S4-not dialog or not DLG. It will show up in the dialog box as well. So if, let's say, you had a custom footer in there, and that was there for every page, but in the dialog box it would show up as well. So whether it's a add new item, delete new item, update new item, or any other pop-ups that you have, it would show there as well. It doesn't make sense in that case. So this is a quick way to make sure, tell SharePoint, don't load this section of the master page in the dialog box. Another favicon. Means something to a few people, means a lot to your users. So if your company has a logo, feel free to use it within your master